Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. We are here with our first chapter from the book Love and Respect. Now, if you're now tuning in for the first time and you don't know what we're talking about, go back to our last video, watch it, and then come back to this one and watch this one, and you'll be all caught up. Essentially, what we're doing was we read the first chapter, and we're going to be going over our highlighted points, our talking points that we thought were important, that were interesting, or something that could be really helpful for us or you guys in turn. So I'm just gonna have Sienna start with the first one, and then we'll go from there.
Awesomeness. All right. So, by the way, it was a great chapter. So I'm gonna start with a scenario that was in the book, only because I think I go through this every time. I would say you've gotten better. I don't have to say you've gotten better, but I go through this. Oh, I used to go through this every time with Brad, and in the book he called it the jean jacket disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole scenario was that um, the wife got her husband this gift. She thought it was the most perfect gift. He's gonna love it. Yes, great.
For
Oh,
Christmas.
for Christmas, yes.
Yeah.
And he opens it, and there's no emotional thing. It was more, and I'm paraphrasing it. It was oh, this is great, and that was it. And that led her to believe, oh, well, you hate it. You don't like it. And I can't tell you how many times that has happened to me with Brad. I get him this gift. I'm like, oh, he's gonna love this. This is gonna be great. And I think did I do it this Christmas to you?
This Christmas, yes.
So I got Brad. What did I get? It was a
You
fire
got me the
tablet.
the tablet, yeah.
I got Brad the fire tablet. Me, I thought he's gonna love this gift. He's gonna be so surprised. He's gonna be excited. He's gonna be shouting from the rooftops, "I have the greatest wife ever!" Like I expected the works. So of course, I feel like I'm more excited for him to open his gifts than he was at this point. So we get to it. Fast forward Christmas. He gets it. He opens it, and I get the thanks, babe. This is awesome. And I'm like, oh, you hate it. You don't like this. And I'm like already telling him like, I mean, he hasn't even looked. It's only been like a second since he opened up the gift and seen it. And I'm like, we could take it back. I have the receipt. You could put it towards something else. Da, 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 da. And he's looking at me like I'm a psycho. He's like, babe, I love it. I like it. I like it. I'm like, you don't have to lie. It's okay. I
Yeah.
understand. Because he's been looking at iPads, and we know that iPads are out there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we'll put the money towards an iPad for you. Like, I'm like, the excitement for me that I had opening this gift, it was like, it was gone. Bless you. It was all gone. And, you know, it was for her. And, I don't, I mean myself, bless you. I wouldn't label it as such. For her, she felt unloved. She felt that her husband didn't love her because he did not react the way she wanted him to react. And
Right.
I never would have thought that was the feeling that came across. For me, I was like, oh, this sucked. Like terrible. Um, but it just goes back to that. Oh, how can I expect Brad to react as enthusiastically as I want him? I want him to.
Yeah, you're expecting your reaction from
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, and then it goes into the other side of it, which is, okay, well, here he is opening this gift. He's excited about it. And because of the reaction he had, and the reaction I had to his reaction, that for him, he was like, well, what did I do that made, what did I do?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
Right.
and it's living, that whole cycle that Brad was talking about in our first video. It's like that cycle that we're working through. It's like, without love, wives act without respect. Without respect, the husbands act without love. And it's like that whole crazy thing. Now, would we sit here and say, well, I was disrespectful towards Brad, therefore his reaction was made me feel unloved? We us ourselves, we wouldn't call it that per se, but essentially that's what it is. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um so yeah, I thought that was so funny. I'm like, we just went through that this Christmas, and it just we have to remember, like, we think and operate one way, and men think and operate one way, and we
Mm-hmm.
can't always try and push how we want them to react. I can't constantly be pushing on Brad, this is how I want you to react, this is how I want you to react, because he's not me, I am not him. We married our significant others for a reason. We're with our partner for a reason. um and it's definitely not because we're the same exact person. We think the exact same way. There's
Yeah.
we aren't the same. So um just trying to keep that in the forefront of my mind when we get into um these conversations, disagreements, however you want to call it. And I'll get into another point later on, um about why this is so important.
Yeah. That's really good. Yeah, and then that's like you said, that's all it comes down to. We are not each other. So
Mm-hmm.
you cannot
Yeah.
expect each other's reaction from each other, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, that's good. Another thing that you mentioned, and I also talked about earlier when we were preparing for the podcast, was a strong point, and you're just getting to it about disagreements. Was you can be right but wrong at the top of your voice. You want to break that down a little bit?
Yeah. So
By the way, you guys see us laughing a lot when we talk about these different points. It is because it's so relevant and so real to us, because we've literally experienced each and everything that we've talking about. It's so real, and it's crazy. It's like they knew exactly like where
the
we're
things
coming
that we're
from.
gonna, yeah, where each person is coming from. So
Hmm.
um the scenario for this one was, the couple, they went to a Bible study, and the wife is frustrated. She's frustrated with her husband, um because he was what did she say? You were boring in Bible study today.
Hmm.
And she gets frustrated to the point where it becomes an outburst where she is just ripping into him.
Yeah, you
Just,
intimidate people with your silence. She said
yeah,
too.
yeah. So like just ripping into him about the things that she felt or observed while at this at this gathering. I've done that before. I've done that before. Um, you guys know Brad. If he doesn't have anything to say, he won't say anything. He won't say anything. Or this podcast is probably going to be the most that you ever see Brad, Brad smile, because if that's just him, he is um, analyzing, he is just thinking, or he's just simply like, the conversation has nothing to do with me, so I'm just going to sit here quietly and mind my business. Meanwhile, me, I'm the talker. I'm the one that wants everybody, like, hey, how are you? Like, I'm the smiley one. I want everyone involved, including him.
Hmm.
And the things that the wife was saying, those are her feelings. That's what she observed. She wasn't wrong in her observation. but how she delivered her observation is what made it wrong. That's why it's like she was right about everything, but the way she delivered it was wrong
Hmm.
because it sounded like she was tearing him down. And I had to sit there and think when I was reading, I'm like, how many times have I did that? Have I did that? Like where it's not what I'm observing about him is wrong. I want him to understand where I'm coming from. But how hard is it going to be for him to actually take those things in and take those observations in if it sounds like I'm berating him or if it sounds like I'm just like trying to tear him down? Is that really going to make the situation better or is it going to make the situation worse?
Right. Yeah, that's good because yeah, I mean, I am quite the observer, and I keep to myself a lot. And unless the situation calls for me to be more forward and more, upfront with the approach, or welcome somebody, then obviously I'll play into that role. But other than that, it's just me and me. Like I'm just in the background observing and just being there and still having a good time. But you know, that's just how
Hmm.
I am.
Just a different way.
Yeah. um I didn't have anything highlighted about this section, but I know you wanted to talk about it. Was
Because I didn't agree.
the birthday. So in this section, so the way he divides the chapters in different scenarios, essentially. In
Hmm.
one of the scenarios, I said scenario, and I was saying scenario. In one of the scenarios, he forgot his wife's birthday, and I don't know. It wasn't intentional on his part, but she didn't help it either.
Yeah. So, and this is something you guys please comment down below. What would you do in this situation? So he forgot her birthday, and she's semi understood. Yes, he's busy. He's been counseling all day, pastoring all day, just doing different things all day. He had a dinner set up. He came home from dinner with was it a friend that he was with or something?
Yeah, but I thought it was a lunch.
Or was it a lunch or a dinner?
Um,
It was
yeah,
a
a
lunch. It was a
lunch.
lunch. It was a lunch. Sorry. And he comes home from this lunch and she asks her husband, "So did you and so celebrate my birthday today?" And before this was premeditated. Okay. It was because she
Yeah.
hid everything. So she hid the birthday cards that she got from people, the balloons, the flowers, the things that people have sent to her. She hid them all intentionally to
Hmm.
see if her husband remembered her birthday. Now, this is something that I will never do. I this is because we've had conversations about this, not this situation per se, but um not especially in the early stages is where I would build this fantasy in my head without communicating it. So my expectations, I would go back to our first Valentine's Day. I think that could equate to this,
This will never
right?
escape me. It will
I
never
know.
escape me.
But I think this would equate to this.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and for our first Valentine's Day, married, and I built this expectation in my head. I'm gonna have rose petals on the floor. We're gonna go out to this grand dinner. Like I built up this whole thing, and not once did I ever communicate that to my husband. Not once. Okay, so that was my first mistake. And we got dressed up. We went out to dinner. It was a beautiful restaurant. We've never been before. It was. We've never
It
been
was
before. It was a
nice,
beautiful
yes.
restaurant. It was.
Waterfront.
It was a what? I'm. Hey, it was a beautiful restaurant. Okay, it was a beautiful restaurant. Um, it just goes to show how the expectations without communicating can ruin an an
Mm-hmm.
experience. Um, I went out to dinner, and at this time we were living with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and we went out to dinner, and that was that. We went out to dinner and we finished dinner, and at this point, I was already I was already over it because we get in the car and he's like, "Okay, so what do you want to do next?" The loaded question. And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, what what do you mean? Like, what else do you have planned? Like, this is it? We're just gonna go out to dinner?" Like, this whole right at the top of you could be right but wrong at the top of your voice. I'm like, "What do you mean? You didn't have anything planned?" Da, da, da. Like, I remember everything, and it was for me. It was like, wow, how can like it was that like how can he, he says he loves me, but he didn't even plan a proper Valentine's Day, like and all just all the stuff. Because once again, I created this fantasy in my head without communicating it. This expectation. And for Brad thought he planned, you know, the grand. We have Valentine's Day. We went out to this waterfront restaurant. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. I got chocolate roses, a teddy bear, a picture of, of us, in a Mickey frame. For him, it was great, and for me, it was not. It was not. But it was all about like that. I say all that to say the expectation. It's like sometimes I believe we can create like this fantasy and have these expectations and believe that our significant other is a mind reader and they know exactly what's going to be, you know, on our mind and what we're expecting without us even communicating. Like when you say that out loud, how crazy is that? How can we um, hold them to this standard without even communicating it and then expect them to meet that standard or meet that expectation without once even saying anything? Brad says he's like, "You're setting me up to fail." And that's what that's what I felt like she did. She set her husband up to fail by
Mm-hmm.
hiding those balloons, hiding everything. She knew that he was busy. She knew that there was, things going back to back. Instead of her communicating that expectation, she did the opposite. And I could understand with that I could understand the whole feeling disrespected in that sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
how can you assume the worst of me instead of assuming the
Right.
best? And then when that expectation is not met, and then do I have a right to feel unloved when the expectation that I thought you should meet was never
Met.
met?
Mm-hmm.
So that was my whole thing was like, I don't agree with that. You set your husband up to fail. You should never, that should never be your intention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was quite the time. It
Yeah.
never escapes me. It's always used
It
as an
never does.
example.
No. And I'll tell you the next after that though, we had a that was a big learning point for us though.
Yeah.
That was the learning point was
Yeah.
not setting you up to fail. And it was a very deep conversation. We had a very deep conversation the very next day because I wanted to understand where your mind and your heart were. I
Right.
didn't want to assume our first Valentine's Day that, oh, he doesn't love me as much as he said he did, or you know even going to the extent was, oh my gosh, were we too like hasty in getting married already? Like we can't even have a decent
Right.
Valentine's Day together. Like that was a really big thing. And not to say that everything else after that was perfect, but I feel like for us that's what really helped trudge us along in the
Yeah.
right direction was having that conversation. Is like, please don't set me up to fail. Like
Right.
as your husband, you have expectations, communicate those to me so I
Mm-hmm.
know what expectation needs to be met. Don't just think that I'm going to read your mind
Mm-hmm.
and meet those expectations out of nowhere without not even once giving me the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. And I think what you're saying there kind of leads perfectly into the next section of at least what I had highlighted was tension has a way of tearing down your self image, and essentially where that comes from is the spats, the arguments, the differences that we have um, from our own ways of doing things and our own preferences, and expecting the other person to do it without realizing that there needs to be some, like you said, communication
Yeah.
to get to that point. And that's always been huge for us, this
Yeah.
tension, especially when we get into arguments or something happens, and there's a situation where we really don't agree on something,
Yeah.
and volume is exchanged, and words are said that obviously they're not meant, but in the heat of the moment they're said,
Yeah.
and we know that of each other. We know that we don't ever have ill feelings towards each other, but just emotions can take over in those
For sure.
times. And I know for us it's been really relevant with the tension, because there's moments where you'll get upset about something, and when you get upset, it tends to upset me if I
Yes.
if I don't see the reasoning, if I
Hmm.
don't, if there's no validation on my behalf of why you're upset.
Yeah.
And then we get into, like, that cycle of, okay, well, you're mad, so for me, when somebody's mad, give them space, like, leave
Hmm.
them be, let them cool down, like, just you chill. You have your
Yeah.
space, and for you it's like the complete opposite. It's like you don't want space, you want me to check in on you, see how you're feeling,
Yes.
where's your emotional state, what are you thinking, um even if
Because
you
you
don't
not
want to
doing
be.
those. Yes, because what I always say, like you not doing those things makes me feel that you don't that you don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah. And even if you don't want to be around me, you still need to know that I love you enough,
Yeah.
where it's coming back down to love and respect. That I love you to, check on you, and to know, like, okay, yeah, you're mad at me. I need to still say, hey, babe, like, how's everything? What's going on in your head right now? Let me know when you're ready to talk, or do we need to talk now? Like, what is the situation call for? And
Yeah.
so I thought that was just perfect. A perfect saying was, tension has a way of tearing down your self image. So it breaks us down individually.
Yeah.
You know. So
For sure. Yeah, and in those times where, because I know how I can be too. I could be very like off putting, and I do that. He'll come and check on me. Are you okay? Yes. Do you want to talk? No. You know, like even I still need to work on that, because I know it's taking a lot in him to come even after we had our disagreement, to come and make me still feel like he cares, make me still feel loved, as what we're going to use for the book. I still need to go ahead and make sure I respect him, and actually working and having that conversation, because Brad is a talk it out person. We're gonna talk it out right now. you know,
yep.
Even when I ask for space, he's so, let me, if he's coming and meeting me, then I have to come and meet him, you know. And it's, again, it's like that whole, you're gonna hear the whole love and respect a lot, because that's how they make you understand it. And I think what it really boils down to, I'm gonna skip ahead to the big point. I
Hmm.
think what it really boils down to is never assuming the worst of your significant other. I think that's been a huge learning thing for us, um in our relationship, and really in any relationship, but especially in marriage. In our marriage, is never assuming the worst of that person. You never, know I married Brad for a reason. I know Brad's heart. I know how he feels about me. I know he's never meant to make me feel unloved, unwanted, or anything like that. Um, but some of the things that he says or does um, can it doesn't I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't make me doubt his love for me, but it can frustrate me. It can make me angry. But at the same time, I know Brad's heart, and it's never one to make me feel unseen, uncared for, unloved. That's never his heart. And vice versa. I could do things every day, like not put stuff away, like not put stuff away. That can make him, after we just had the conversation about putting things away and putting things back where they belong, you know, it's never he knows my heart. It's never that, well, I just talked to her today and she didn't do it. She's just being, disrespectful. She doesn't care. That's never gonna be my heart. So it's really
Mm.
like that whole understanding of the things that we do to each other is never one of ill will. We have to understand that. Once
Right.
we operate, I think once we operate from that perspective, when we have disagreements, when we have arguments, or things just get a little bit out of hand in the household, we know it's never meant to do harm. It's never intentional, I should say. It's never an intentional thing. Um, and I think that really does set the tone for when a disagreement or conversation does need to come up. Always know you always assume the best of your significant other.
Right. Yeah. So anything you're doing, you're not intentionally disrespecting me, and I'm not intentionally unloving you. Like,
Yeah.
we just happen to have ways of doing things that it doesn't line up with what the other person likes to be done all the time.
Hmm.
But that's not us, being disrespectful. It's not
Spiteful.
a
Yeah.
yeah. So that yeah, once you're able to reset that framework in your mind, then it makes it a lot easier. And it even gets you to the point, like he was saying in the book, like you can joke about it, like Sienna would be
Yeah.
able to joke about, like, yeah, I was just about to do that, babe. I got you.
Yeah.
Like so instead of her getting upset that I'm telling her again, she can joke it off or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, because in the token of me telling her, like, my intention is like it's gonna help us in the grand scheme of things. Like, I
Yeah.
want to, like, my thought of that is like, if she spends the extra whatever putting something away, she has a whole extra 30 minutes to enjoy it herself, or whatever the case is, for that situation. But we always have the best of intentions for each other, when
Yeah.
even if it doesn't look that way. And once you start thinking about it that way, you start
Hmm.
realizing it, then that changes so much, of how you just go about your relationship moving forward.
Yeah. Because half the arguments are, or the things that go on in your head are thing. It's like it's all from your perspective. It's like how you approach the situation. Like there is, um, like was it yesterday? Or was it today? I don't remember. I'm not feeling the 100%. I'm not. I have a sore throat, a little sick. I'm a little bit under the weather, weather. So like my like just I'm just off. And I forgot, what did you say? You said something. It was a few things, and I was just getting like really offended or something. You're like, why are you?
Mhm.
Brad's question. He's like, why are you getting angry? Like, that's not what I meant. Like, what's going on? I had to actually like just before I responded, in a disrespectful manner. I had to I had to check myself to remind myself, like, it's not it's not his fault that I'm feeling this way, or it's not the kid's fault why I'm feeling this way. It just happened. I'm under the weather. It's no one,
Mhm.
it's no one's fault. I need to check my like how I'm reacting and to certain things where Brad is a sarcastic person. always has been. I'm feeling he always will be. um, I know that. I know it's just Brad. It's his thing. It's funny most of the times when I'm at 100%. But I noticed that I was just getting really ticked off, and he was getting really confused. He's like, "What's going on? Are you okay?" And instead of me like going and trying to rip him a new one for being him, being his typical self, I had to, I had to really just calm it down and not and just be like, it's me. It's my perspective. It's how I'm perceiving things right now. What I'm filtering those things through. And I needed to, I need to communicate. I need to communicate that. It's like,
Mhm.
it's not you. I'm like, it's not, it's no one's fault that I feel this way. I'm not, I'm choosing not to like have a whole blow up. So just keeping that in mind. What are you processing or filtering, these things or that are that irk you with your significant other? Um, can it be that it's an unmet expectation because there was no communication on your part or their part? Um, is it that you're bringing outside things, work, school, whatever it may be, into home, and that's what you're filtering, those comments and stuff through? Like, what you always have to just always take an extra second before you flip the switch. Okay, what am I processing or filtering this situation through? Is it truly that they want to frustrate and irk me, or is there something else that's underlying that I need to address
Mhm.
first? That's usually where the you know majority of arguments are all based out of misunderstanding and miscommunication.
Yeah.
That's why I always say the biggest thing in marriage is communication, communication, communication.
Yeah. And that's how he kind of
Mm,
ends the first chapter. He
mhm.
says the first step is understanding just how husbands and wives communicate. So
Mm.
we got to understand how each other communicates cuz we know ourselves, but that doesn't matter when you're in any kind of relation. It doesn't matter
Yeah,
about yourself. And that's why it's so important that you're self-aware and you know yourself, so that way you can, when it comes time to learning somebody else and how they communicate, you can see and you can help let them learn about yourself.
yeah,
Because if you don't know yourself, you can't help anybody know how you are. And I'm gonna show the circle just to recap the crazy cycle. I don't know, I guess you can see it there.
yeah. You see it perfectly.
Yeah. So that's it. You know, he reacts without love, she reacts without respect. And as long as that's happening, you're gonna always be in what he calls the crazy cycle. And you're gonna keep doing it, and it's gonna go forever.
Yeah,
And it actually might not go forever. It could end in divorce, it could end in breakup,
breakup.
separate, whatever the case may be. So
And
the
remember, it's not based on the other person.
right,
It's not that, you know, I'll love her, or I'll make her feel loved as long as she respects me, or I'm not going to respect him as long as it's not based off the other person. If you're going to base it off, well, I'll wait until this, he does this or she does this, you're going to constantly remain on that cycle. You have to be conscious of your actions and how you say things and how you're perceiving things. You have to
mm,
take responsibility for that. I'm not going to wait for Brad to make me feel loved to respect him. It's not how, it's not how it goes. It's,
right,
we're in this. They say in the book, but I'm sure you've heard of it, the agape love is like unconditional love.
hmm,
Unconditional love is not based on somebody else. Unconditional means unconditional. It's without any um limitations. It's without waiting, for the other person or other,
right,
to step in and do it first. There's no
right.
doing it first, on I'll wait till this. No. You gotta make the changes that you want to see.
Yeah, and that's the one part that he brings in that nobody else has ever brought in is with the unconditional love, you need unconditional respect. So there
Yeah.
can't be a reason why you need to respect them. It
Yeah,
just needs
one
to
needs to
be,
be without the other. Yeah.
yeah. So the verse for that, let me just give you that before we wrap up here. The verse is Ephesians I had it
I
highlighted
think
here.
522, 523.
533.
Oh, that was a little close.
Yeah, you were very close actually. So Ephesians 5:33. So check that out. Go into your Bible, read it, go over it. I'm not gonna do it here because I want to challenge you to actually get your Bible out. That's something that we all have to challenge ourselves to do, no matter who we are.
Mhm.
So yeah, go read it, check it out, leave a comment below if you have any thoughts about that stuff. But that kind of covers the first chapter where we are. If you guys have any questions, leave it below. If you have any comments on what we said, leave it below. Anything you got, let us know. If you have our other social medias, feel free to message us. We're always available. Do the YouTube thing. You know what it is. I'm not going to tell you guys anymore. You guys know. We love you guys. We thank you for spending your time with us. And, we have a lot of fun doing this. And as you can see with Sienna, the way she is now, no matter what, we're going to be here and we're going to do it. So you can count on that. Anything else you want to
Yes.
say, babe?
The Chiefs won the Super Bowl.
Oh, did
Congratulations.
they?
Yes.
Wow.
I
Wow.
think by like 2 points.
I feel like that was an upset for a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people were going for the Eagles.
Probably. Anywho, that was my takeaway. I love you guys. I love you guys. I'm excited to see what's gonna come out of this podcast. Like I said, our goal is we want our friends, we want our married couples, people that are in relationships, we want you guys to be thriving. That's our
Mhm.
that's our main goal. Because it's possible. Brad and I, like we said before, our marriage is not perfect. It's not. Um, but we worked pretty darn hard to get to where we are, and we still got a long way to go. We're still learning, as you heard, things that we just went through today or last week. We're still learning from each other, but it's the dedication and commitment to each other to learn. I believe that's helping our marriage get better and better each day. That commitment and dedication to be better and to communicate better um is super important. So we want that for our friends and our family. And it's possible. It just takes some work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, love you guys. Hopefully by the next time I will this thing, whatever it is, I'm not saying it's anything because I don't want to claim it, is gone. And love you guys.
See ya.